Yo, I'm back. I don't know. They said the sound was messed up. I wasn't gonna continue going with it if y'all couldn't hear me. I watched it go from like 30 or 40 people down to like 10 to 2. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why it just did that. So I just restarted it. What's up, Ryan? Miss, are you still here? How you doing, Ryan? Welcome. I sent you a link if you want to pop up, dog. Hopefully everything goes okay because, bro, like just a minute ago it shot up and then like just came down. We'll talk in person, bro. But let's see if everything's good to go. Yeah, we good to go now. All right. Well, like I said before, I have to restart it again. We've got all types of stuff for today. I've got ice stuff, Columbus. I've got some stuff that has to do with just the border, and then I have stuff that has to do with the truckers, and then I've got stories about snap fraud. Got some speeches, one from Tom Homan. I've got a couple of ICE, FBI, DEA raids. Then I've got some crazy stories. I got an argument gone bad where a man unalives his whole family over an NFL argument. And then we're going to get into the Turning Point USA. We're going to watch Nicki Minaj, JD Vance, and Donald Trump Jr. if we get to all that. Depending on how this algorithm goes, we'll see. So I started with marijuana before. I'm going to go ahead and start with what I planned on this last time. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. All right, let's get this show on the road. Can you hear me? Everything good?
Now targeting Ohio, ICE arresting illegal immigrants in the capital, Columbus, and across the state in what's being dubbed Operation Buckeye. Agents nabbing criminals, aliens from places like India and Somalia, some convicted of violent crimes, sex offenses, felony robbery.
In your DMs, bro.
Let's bring in ICE Deputy Director Madison Sheahan. She is in Ohio for Operation Buckeye. Madison, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, what's the latest you're seeing there in the Buckeye State?
Well, we were able to kick this operation off on December 16th. And with this operation, we've had a lot of success very quickly. Our officers have gone out and truly arrested the worst of the worst. We have arrested gang members, murderers, and rapists. We've arrested people with sex crime charges. We've arrested people with DWI charges. And we've been able to go after these people that have been in this country illegally. They have taken advantage of the system here in Ohio, and we're putting a stop to that, allowing us to go after the worst of the worst who have been embedded themselves in these communities near Columbus, Ohio.
The Columbus mayor is protesting. I want to play a clip from him, and I'll get you to react.
Oh, gosh. The Columbus mayor is just horrible. I've never heard Fox News's take on this yet, honestly.
Our police will not be used to carry out these operations. Columbus is already safe without federal intervention.
And that we have gone over this days in a row. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Please take care of one another and know that your community leaders see and support you.
What's your response to him, and is his protest causing you any issues?
Well, we will continue to go into cities, no matter if the locals want to work with us or not. Sanctuary cities policies, leaders who don't want to work with ICE is not going to deter ICE from doing our job. We want to walk beside law enforcement officers to allow them to go after the worst of the worst, the people that have been wreaking havoc in their communities. Now, if the city of Columbus doesn't work with us, well, that's not going to stop us from going in and removing these criminals who have wreaked havoc on the American people for far too long.
Meantime, ICE agents are also doing enforcement operations in Maryland. That's where they say this van tried to run them over on Christmas Eve. Police say agents approached the van in a quiet neighborhood south of Baltimore, and the driver headed right at them, then hit vehicles as he tried to get away. The ICE agent shot into the van, wounding the Portuguese driver. His Salvadoran passenger suffered whiplash when the van hit a building. Homeland Security says both are here illegally on overstayed visas. This is just the latest in a sharp rise in vehicle attacks on federal agents since President Trump took office January 20th. 71 attacks on Customs and Border Protection agents, up 58% from last year, and 20 car attacks on ICE, up a stunning 1,300%. Here is Border Czar Tom Homan.
Putting hands on a ICE officer. So I looked at the numbers the other day. I've never seen so many prosecutions in my life. So we're sending a strong message. There is zero consequence. You put a hand on an ICE officer. If you interfere with an ICE officer, you'll get a set of handcuffs, and you're going to go to jail, and you're going to be federally prosecuted.
How troubling is this trend for your agents in the field who are at times targets?
Well, what we've seen is Democrat lawmakers continue to use this dangerous rhetoric. They're pushing this narrative online that if an ICE officer attacks you, you should use your vehicle to ram against them. This is dangerous. This puts our officers in danger. This puts the aliens in danger. These aliens that they swear they're here to protect when our law enforcement officers are doing their job. Secretary Noem and President Trump have allowed the ICE officers to go out and do their job. Every single day, Secretary Noem empowers us to go after the worst of the worst, to go after criminals who have been in this country illegally. And that's what our officers will continue to do. Even as this threat level rises, we will continue to go do our job.
Then there's Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota's daughter, Hope, with the pointed Christmas message.
I just wanted to say Merry Christmas to you all. Today I am holding all of our...
Do you think she uses tampons? Do you think with tampons,
no, I don't.
Or do you? I think she uses magnums.
Our neighbors that ICE has been terrorizing near and dear to
Paper towels.
Love and light, as well as all of our in-house folks and just
Scotch tape.
Anybody that may be struggling right now. I'm holding it close to me, and I hope that you can all do so as well.
Merry Christmas to the illegals. What do you make of that?
Dude, hold up. Let's do a couple things here. One, this person to the left of the guy looks like walking. I don't know what the fuck is saying, dude. I'm looking at walking over here. I don't know if that's a dude or a chick. It looks like a pan. And it definitely kind of looks like walking with a little bit straighter hair. Or like, maybe like Marilyn Manson or something. I don't know. It definitely looks very panty. I don't know.
Governor Walz has proven that he does not take care of his people. He's allowed his cities
Merry Christmas, illegals.
to wreak havoc, and he's not had any law and order in his communities. And this just adds to that narrative that empowers people to go after federal law enforcement officers. If you touch a federal law enforcement officers, there will be penalties that come with that. We will continue to go after the worst of the worst.
Exactly.
To enforce the immigration law as it's written every single day, no matter what.
Madison Sheahan from ICE, many thanks for your time today. Great to see you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily.
Hey everybody, I'm Emily. She's kind of hot. I'd smash for sure. All right. Next, let's go right down the line. This should be easier. I actually have I have to get on a roll though. It's like not letting this get off, bro. It's like I'll tell you when we get off. Let's go. We should. Here we go. Apparently, a family was detained illegally. Let's see.
What I do for be arrested? Like, what is my crime or something like that? And he told me, no, you enter illegal to this country.
From behind bars of the Butler County Jail, a 22-year-old just detained by ICE is telling us his story.
Butler County Jail, that's our boy, dude. Bro, he's a star now, man.
Jeez, man.
Record and is in the country legally. ICE arrested Arturo Rafael Brito Goncalves.
Hey, man, he shouldn't have went there.
Last Wednesday, when he says he showed up to his scheduled immigration appointment in Westerville. Now he's fighting the charges against him. ABC 6 On Your Side investigator Lisa Rantola sat down exclusively with his family, who says the immigration battle is coming at a cost.
Images of 22-year-old Arturo Rafael Brito Goncalves, a pilot, before he was picked up by ICE agents last week during Operation Buckeye.
Arturo Brito.
An inmate at the Butler County Jail, Ohio.
Arturo's family allowed ABC 6 investigates exclusively into their home to talk to him during their daily call.
How are you feeling as this is going on?
I feel the same persecution that the same treatment that I feel in my country.
Arturo and his family tell me they're from Venezuela, where they were nearly killed due to supporting regime opposition.
They tried to hit us and they put a gun out of the window. It was a hard situation. I was there with my brothers and me.
Triplets raised by their mother. Andrea tells me she was first to come to America.
The problem is they don't show up
Under a tourism visa and applied for asylum. She and her mother asked us to hide their
I don't see a problem with it if they did it righteously.
faces for protection.
So we haven't been here illegally since we came in.
But due to the ongoing raids targeting who ICE calls the worst of the worst.
We all have our documentation in our cars. Like I even have my social in my car.
Andrea said they all kept their papers nearby, including driver's license, employment authorization, passport, and social security card. Arturo tells me he showed agents his visa last week at the immigration office in Westerville. He says he's been checking in with ICE ever since.
Well, see, if this is true, that's not cool.
He entered the country in 2023 when they questioned if he'd be working under his tourist visa. Provided by the family, Andrea shows me an authorization for employment card for Arturo through 2029.
You know, I never had
That's not cool.
with the police or something like that. On this country, the police never pulled over me or something like that.
I found no criminal record for Arturo in Franklin, Delaware, Union, and Madison counties here in central Ohio. He tells me his paper.
That doesn't mean anything because everybody they caught, they couldn't find their case. But it doesn't seem like this guy, but we can't put it by anybody.
Show he's able to stay in the country for several more years while waiting for asylum. But last Wednesday.
In my mind, it's a joke. Okay? Means mom, really? I'm detained.
He called his mother to say he had been placed under arrest.
I arrived with my American visa. How I arrived illegally if I entered to this country with American visa.
He was booked in the Butler County Jail hours later.
But now she said that she's feeling almost the same way that she felt when we were in Venezuela.
Stress, anxiety.
Exactly.
The family says they have called a lawyer to fight deportation.
You're afraid what could happen to you if you go back to Venezuela.
Yeah, I have afraid of going back to Venezuela.
We have reached out to ICE about this case and are waiting.
Is there anybody in the chat that while I keep pumping this out, I wish Keeks was here. Is there anybody that's willing to look this guy up and see what he's all about?
To hear back until they have more answers regarding the law and actions taken by law enforcement.
Oh, wait. Never mind. They're still waiting to hear back them damn selves. They're supposed to be investigators. Never mind.
People are saying that this is not happening. Like, they're not taking people who are not criminals. My brother just got detained, and he's not a criminal.
Arturo's plan to start pilot school here. Andrea's enrollment in nursing.
I thought he was already a pilot. Now it's plans to be a pilot. Which one, bro?
School and their mother's plan to become a paralegal after practicing criminal law in Venezuela could all be put on hold.
I felt like I had hope that things were going to change. I came in thinking about
I can get
that
down
my
with that,
life was going
Issa.
to be better.
On your side, I'm investigator Lisa Rontola.
Thanks for watching the ABC6 News.
I can get with that. I can get with that, bro. They got 2 years to acclimate to our country, go to court. They shouldn't have to wait 10 years or whatever it is. I don't know if that's even true. I don't know enough to really be able to say, but I do know that they don't show up to court, and that's just a fact. That's not like me trying to sugarcoat it for anybody. That's just that, bro.
Del Cueto, he's a border security advisor for the Federation of American Immigration Reform. Art, great to talk to you again. How much of this judge's ruling is going to impact what's going on in Chicago when it comes to immigration?
Yeah, we just love it, bro. That's all we think.
I mean, moving forward, first off, Merry Christmas. But I think they're gonna continue to enforce immigration laws because they have to. We're at a point now where the immigration leadership and President Trump has been the main guy that's been driving this, right? Thankfully, noticing there's an issue with so many individuals that have entered the country illegally, and it was brought on by the Biden administration, and something needs to be done. But a decision like this, it's devastating, and I'll tell you because it's like they don't pay attention to what's been happening. If you look at what's happened in other cities, even with the help of National Guard, you've had so many Border Patrol agents, ICE, get attacked. Can you imagine how horrific it is when you don't even have that extra National Guardsman out there to protect them? Again, what also it does is sends a message out there to the criminals saying, hey, you know what? It's okay. You can continue with your crime because we're going to have rulings that actually make it easier for you to attack these agents. It is extremely devastating. And I have to point out, though, even with all these obstacles, President Trump has been able to shut down that southern border like no one else. So I think moving forward, we will continue to enforce our nation's laws because we have the right individual that is president of the United States at this time.
You know, on the other end of the National Guard not being allowed for now to be in Chicago to help with all of this, you do have $170 billion that the Congress is spending because of the big, beautiful bill last year that's going to hire enforcement, it's going to hire removal operations. How much of an impact is that going to have?
So that'll be very impactful because the more individuals that you have out there, the easier it is to arrest individuals. But it's even easier to fast track them and do the deportation. But people need to remember this is going to take time because they do have to go through the academy. They got to be trained correctly before you can deploy them and put them in our streets. But even now, with needing more agents, we're doing such a better job because a lot of the agents that were stuck in processing centers during the Biden administration have been able to go out in the field and go after criminals. Just Border Patrol alone. Now you can go down to the border and you see Border Patrol agents that are actively deployed. They're arresting, they're deterring. You've seen an uptick in the drug seizures, and that is with agents on the line. When agents were not on the line, it was a free-for-all for the drug cartels, not just the human smugglers.
You spent a couple of decades down there. Have you ever seen the border this quiet?
Not only have I spent a couple of decades working with the Border Patrol, but I've lived on the border my entire life. I grew up down here. I've seen it. I'm not a transplant. I've seen the issues back and forth. I grew up on a border seat. I've never seen it as good as it is now, which is amazing, especially as I point out, President Trump has shut down the border, even with all the obstacles that have been put in front of him. And what's even more upsetting is I think a lot of these politicians that have spoken out against President Trump, it's turned into a hatred towards President Trump, into just an all-out hatred towards America, because who doesn't want to keep our nation's borders safe? It's ridiculous.
I want to get you on this story out of Maryland right now, not too far from D.C., in fact, where ICE agents approached a van in Maryland. And then these two guys who ICE says were here illegally got in the van, smashed a bunch of ICE cars. They've been arrested, taken to the hospital. But I think, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but this is sort of a demonstration in probably the easiest way to apprehend people is to get them from custody from local police officers. And what does this say when it comes to...
That's how Obama did it. He didn't... He didn't use no ICE. He just arrested everybody and deported them.
A fight over sanctuary cities and local police working with federal immigration officers.
Look, this is the actual example that we can point at to show that when you tell these individuals that there's not going to be consequences for their actions, you're going to see more of these types of attack on law enforcement. When you have rulings that say, we're not going to assist you with National Guard, this empowers the criminals. I'm down in Tucson, Arizona, and I cringe just thinking and hearing the mayor down here when she gives her speeches, as well as many others that are in sanctuary cities, give their speeches to their constituents, and they tell them, hey, you need to fight, you need to resist, you need to mobilize. They send out messages where they're explaining where the actual federal agents are going to target businesses because they know that they're breaking the law, they're breaking our immigration laws, and they've been doing it for quite some time. Every time I see this, I realize that even though we have it as good as we do now, we still have a lot of work to do. And unfortunately, you have a lot of politicians that don't care enough about America that they continue to send out the message and allow criminal behavior and empower criminal behavior as well.
Yeah, potentially any type of interaction like that, any type of apprehension can get very dangerous. I don't know if these guys were ever in custody. I just want to make that clear when I was telling the story before this incident happened. But Artel Cueto, thanks so much for joining us, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you very much.
Man,
this credit is here to say yes.
Turned into a I have not used any of this source the whole time. So it's kind of different. Okay. Migrant truck. This is crazy. Migrant truckers sue over them getting in trouble. Like, bro, you're driving illegally. This is insane that this is
travel
even
season, as you know, alongside getting news from your family. And something that the Trump administration has been laser focused on when it comes to roads, something that impacts everybody, is cracking down on illegal immigrants who receive commercial driver's licenses and then wind up driving these big rigs and tractor trailers when they can't even speak English or read road signs. There have been a series of accidents and fatal crashes that have taken place across the country as a result of this. And Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has been spearheading the issue of getting these driver's licenses to be revoked and making our roads safer, and has threatened to withhold federal funding from several states because of this. California has actually responded to Secretary Duffy's request and said, okay, we are going to revoke 21,000 driver's license from migrants who have received them. And now it turns out that this group of migrants are suing the state as a result.
Right. So they've, in California alone, more than 17,000 have been yanked. Another 24,000 are under review right now. In these truckers, these immigrant truckers, many of them illegal immigrants, are suing. Here's a little bit of what the lawsuit says. It alleges that on November 6th, the California DMV notified 17,299 immigrant drivers and business owners that their non-domiciled CDLs, that's commercial driver's licenses, would be canceled on January 5th, 2026. That's just days from now due to an error with the expiration date of the licenses. A similar letter was sent to an additional 2,700 drivers in December, informing them that their licenses will be canceled in mid-February.
I love you, Bubba.
20,000 immigrants. The DMV intends to cancel their commercial licenses without any affording opportunity to obtain a corrected license or to contest the cancellation. The lawsuit reads, but let's remember the deadly results of allowing illegal immigrants not only to cross the border and be released in the country, but then to give them work authorization and commercial driver's licenses to operate 18-ton trucks, 18-wheelers on our roads. Here's a list we can show you going all the way back to this summer in Florida. The illegal immigrant trucker killed 3 attempting to make that illegal U-turn, and back in October, another another killed in a truck driving incident. In California, they've seen a number of incidences, to include in Ontario, where 3 were killed. And just last month, you had in Oregon another horrific incident that killed 2 after a truck jackknife. And then just weeks ago in Tennessee, a Chinese national kills one by causing a deadly multi-vehicle pileup. In Washington State, you had an illegal immigrant trucker failed to decelerate and killed 1. And you know what's crazy is in those last 2 incidences, the Chinese illegal truck driver and the Indian illegal truck driver, those crossed in 2023 in Lukeville, Arizona, where I saw the immigrants coming across, these middle-aged men from all over the world. And in California, the Chinese individual crossed in San Diego, because I looked back at their alien files through my sources of Border Patrol, and you look back at the chaos that the border was, and you realized this is likely going to be a consequence, and yet the previous administration just let it run wild. That's why Secretary Duffy now, to your point, Carly, is leaning in. Here's a little bit of what he said.
These are simple rules. These rules are not made up by the Trump administration. I didn't make them up. These are rules that are set up to make sure our roads are safe. And so if you can't speak English, if you haven't gone through the proper training courses, you shouldn't be behind the wheel of a big rig. You had Joe Biden that let tens of millions of people into the country. And then you have liberal governors who said, well, they got to work, so let's give them commercial driver's licenses and put them on the American roads, endangering the safety of the American people. So I can't go in across the states and do these checks. I have to rely on the state's law enforcement to help me out. But what I can do, Brian, is I can pull their money. That's the leverage that I do have. I guarantee you that the federal taxpayer is not going to fund their roads and bridges and their systems when they're putting illegals on the roads and endangering the lives of the American people.
What you saw right there is a picture of righteous indignation. I mean, Sean Duffy's pretty even-keeled. He's upset, and rightly so, because you're not just putting American lives at risk. You have been irresponsible. If your state's doling out CDLs to just anybody, they can't read the signs, they can't speak the language. California and New York, and I think those are probably leading the way here. And I'm thankful, not just for us as Americans, but for the people who are out there on the roads, whether you're American or not. You deserve safety. And these people have to be properly trained. And if they are not, they should not be behind the wheel of an 80,000.
There's no way they should be behind the wheel. That's crazy. It makes me not feel safe at all. My brother died literally from getting hit by a semi-truck.
1,000-pound rig. I mean, this is outrageous. And so thankfully,
not just one, but both of my brothers.
They're finally making some strong decisions. And Carly, you mentioned it. By eliminating the funding, it will finally compel these states to do the right thing and get these dangers off the road.
And not every truck driver who's getting their license revoked in California is here illegally.
Yeah.
But the number one point of the government on a state level, federal, local, is always
Safety.
to keep Americans safe.
Yep.
And if there are people who are receiving licenses who are in this country and they don't speak English and they don't read road signs, and they're getting these work authorizations that allow them to operate these massive big rigs, and we've seen the footage of a result of what happens. It's frightening.
Yeah.
And it's a very good thing that something is changing.
You know what hasn't changed is the Democrats and many in the mainstream media simply making the case that what President Trump and this administration has done, crack down and secure our border, dangers just like this, that somehow mean-spirited and cruel to say if you cross the border illegally, then that's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. You should just be allowed to stay, despite the fact that we have laws on our books that Congress passed. Code US 1325. If you cross the border illegally, you've committed a crime. Do it a second time, it's a felony. But yet here's the AP talking about a Venezuela's family's Christmas, saying from American dream to poverty, and they're leaning into the sympathy of migrants, saying this was not the Christmas that Mariela Gomez would have imagined a year ago, or the one that thousands of other Venezuelan immigrants would have thought. But Donald Trump returned to the White House.
I like that RS-11 too, man.
They're American.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool name.
I know.
I didn't
good
catch
name, dude.
it right away.
I saw it right away.
What's going on?
I don't know. But WRS11 for the name.
What's going on though? Okay.
Dream. Her two sons and her partner returned to
Like,
the
what
city
is
of
going
Maracay on October 27th after crossing the U.S.-Mexican border to Texas, where they were quickly swept up by the Border Patrol amid the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. They were deported to Mexico, from where they began the dangerous journey back to Venezuela.
Did you notice they said immigration? They didn't say illegal immigration. They always blithely ignore the fact that there are ports of entry. There are ways to come to and we love immigration in this country. We want as many legal immigrants as the system can handle. But in this circumstance, again, they're playing a little sleight of hand with the language. And this is exactly your point.
Yeah, they want to argue that crossing the border illegally is a form of acceptable immigration.
Exactly.
And to your point, Kevin, it's simply not.
That's right.
And the people overwhelmingly voted across partisan lines, across all demographics, that what we saw in the past 4 years, the border crisis, is not acceptable.
That's right.
And we're sadly reporting daily on the deadly consequences. But yet, that AP article really rubs me the wrong way, because no one wants to be cruel, but we either have a country of laws or we don't.
Right.
And we either have a border or we don't. And that's what this administration is making a decision to say we do, and we're going to enforce it. If Democrats in the mainstream media, but if Democrats are upset about it, then change the laws, because ICE and Border Patrol are not choosing to be cruel. They're carrying out federal immigration law that is on the books.
It's trade-offs. There are trade-offs to everything. And we saw what took place when there were open borders and you get Venezuelan migrants coming into the country, and some of them are good people, but then you also have Tren de Aragua and them as well. And they were taking over apartment complexes in Colorado. And there are citizens that are no longer on this earth as a result. So the Trump administration came in and changed that. And unfortunately, this Associated Press piece is slanted in a different direction, but you could see through all of that.
Yeah.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And clip
So I'm
here, subscribe to the Fox News.
apparently this is supposed to be raw as all get out. This is a protest going on in Minnesota. Let's see what this says. It says it's raw, so I bet it's not. I bet it's super not.
Stand down with deportation! Up with liberation! Stand down with deportation! Repeat after me! We say justice, you say no! We say justice, you say no! And the deportations now!
At least there's American flags this time.
You say no! And the deportations now! Say it out!
Who, me? Do I look like I am? Redneck Fred? What's up, Redneck Fred? Hey. Yo, Redneck Fred, let's smoke. This is...
Buenas tardes, ya casi son tardes, ¿verdad? Nosotros somos el grupo Calpuli que están aquí, pues. Estamos juntos con ustedes, unidos en esta lucha. Estamos en resistencia, ¿verdad? Todos somos familia.
Get thirsty now. When Minnesota gets the don't know, man. Yeah, man. I hear you.
Yeah. Yes. No cap.
You to get your CDL and give you a truck driving job with one of the nation's safest carriers, Rail Transport.
I wonder if they hire illegals.
No Trump, no troops. In the cities and Lincoln boots. No Trump, no troops. Twin Cities and Lincoln boots. No troops. Twin Cities and Lincoln boots. No Trump, no troops. Twin Cities and Lincoln boots. No Trump, no troops. Twin Cities and Lincoln boots.
This is corny.
No Trump! No Trump! Twin Cities and Lincoln boots!
How am I supposed to not laugh at that, man? Come on.
This is supposed to be raw, bro.
You're gonna do that.
I think I'm gonna move on with my show and then come back. This is kind of corny. I'm gonna go on with the show and then I'll come back to it, bro. Because that was kind of this one. No, fuck. I just skipped my the video I wanted. Okay, cool. Well then, I'll go ahead and do this. And I'll go back to the protest here. Oops. When in a minute, bro, because I don't know. Unless you guys were entertained by that in the chat.
He said, "Are they protesting it's winter?"
I don't know, bro. It was kind of boring. I mean, I could go back to it. Not boring. I wanted to get some stuff off. Like I didn't want. Like I wanted to get this off before I got into that. I had a Tom Holman speech.
Good afternoon.
I don't know where the hell it went.
Today we are announcing federal charges against two men, Antonio Bonner and Saul Elisme, for large-scale SNAP benefit trafficking, a scheme that turned a program designed to feed families into a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. SNAP benefits are also known as food stamps. The defendants are charged with one count of food stamp fraud. As alleged in the charging documents, these men abused one of the government's most critical safety net programs for their own financial gain. This is taxpayer money meant to keep people from going hungry. These defendants decided to take it for themselves. These defendants exchanged SNAP benefits for cash, which they pocketed. Bonner, a naturalized U.S. citizen from Haiti, owned the Jesuela Variety Store. Elisme, a lawful permanent resident also from Haiti, owned the Saul Mache Mixe store. These two businesses were co-located within a single storefront in Boston. To be certain, these were not supermarkets. They were not full-service groceries. It would be a huge stretch to even call them convenience stores. In fact, the only thing convenient about these stores was how easy it was to commit SNAP benefit fraud. To put this in perspective, the Jesuela Variety Store is less than 150 square feet in size. smaller than some bathrooms. The Saul Mache Mixe store was approximately 500 square feet in space. By contrast, a supermarket can be 20,000 to 60,000 square feet in size, have a dozen or more registers, and employ numerous employees. Both the Disuela Variety and Saul Mache Mixe stores had one register, no carriages, no hand baskets, and very little food for sale. One legitimate supermarket in the same area as these stores redeems approximately $80,000 in SNAP benefits per month. Over the last 20 months, the Disuela Variety store was redeeming between 3 and 6 times that amount monthly, with nowhere near the space, inventory, customers, or infrastructure to support it. The Saul Mache Mixe store redeemed over $120,000 in SNAP benefits in the last 6 months. Simply put, there is no plausible way SNAP eligible food could have been purchased from these stores for this long.
Read.
Stores are alleged to have illicitly trafficked nearly $7 million in SNAP benefits. The fraud was shocking and glaring. Investigators found that both stores had exceptionally large and highly anomalous SNAP redemption volumes, far beyond what is remotely possible for businesses of their size, type, and location. Since March of 2024, the Disuela Variety store had monthly SNAP redemptions that consistently exceeded $100,000. In the previous 20 months, the monthly SNAP redemptions were between $200,000 and $300,000 a month. In one of those months, the redemptions exceeded $500,000.
In Columbus, this is what's happening with the Somalis.
Investigators' suspicions of fraudulent activity were confirmed on the ground. During the course of this investigation, undercover officers used EBT cards to traffic SNAP benefits for cash at both the Disuela Variety store and the Saul Mache Mixe store. The defendants themselves were working the cash registers, and both exchanged SNAP benefits for cash with the undercover officers.
Yep.
Observations made by the undercovers showed that it was just as easy for anyone with an EBT card to walk into either store and convert hundreds of dollars in SNAP benefits into cash, all tax-free. The defendants even sold liquor in exchange for SNAP benefits, an outright violation of federal law. And perhaps most disturbing, both stores sold donated food products known as Manipacks. These are meals manufactured by the nonprofit Feed My.
That's some heathen stuff. Selling food that's nonprofit. Like what?
Starving children, which are paid for entirely by charitable donations and are intended to be shipped directly to food insecure children overseas, including children in Haiti. These products are not for sale anywhere. Yet Bonner and Elise May were selling them in their stores for nearly $10 a pack, profiting from food literally intended for starving children in disaster zones. The investigation also uncovered extensive financial manipulations. Because the stores had little legitimate inventory and almost no lawful income, the defendants relied almost entirely on USDA-funded SNAP redemptions. To conceal their fraud, they used numerous bank accounts to transfer the SNAP benefits around between the accounts they controlled to create the illusion of a legitimate business activity. They also funded certificates of deposits and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash withdrawals to keep enough cash on hand to pay out their customers. What were missing from the financial records were the things you would expect in any real grocery store, such as charges for wholesale invoices or large purchases for food inventory. Instead, the accounts reflected round-trip transactions, cash movements, and internal transfers to launder the SNAP proceeds. This case exposes a serious breakdown in oversight. Bonner's greed and fraud had no limits. Despite redeeming millions in SNAP benefits through his store, Bonner fraudulently obtained his own EBT card. The court documents indicate that between 2022 and the present, He cashed himself out for over $10,000 in SNAP benefits. In 2025, all of those redemptions were through the Josuela Variety Store. It appears that the Massachusetts Department of Transitional Assistance conducted virtually no diligence when reviewing his application. It failed to compare Bonner's food stamp application against any record showing that he owned a business or that his store was already receiving millions of dollars of SNAP proceeds, or that he had hundreds of thousands of dollars moving through numerous bank accounts.
Are you guys hearing this shit? What?
That he was married and living with his wife. Failures such as these allowed fraud and illegal conduct to grow unchecked for year on end. The court documents show that thousands of transactions have been taking place for years in large dollar amounts at stores that were not even large enough to store a fraction of the food necessary to justify these dollar amounts. And the numbers speak for themselves. $50,000 a month of fraud rapidly turned into $100,000 a month, then $200,000 a month, and at one point reached $500,000 of fraud in 1 month. Let me be clear, SNAP is the largest food assistance program in this country. It exists to feed families, not to bankroll criminals. This wasn't a paperwork error. It wasn't sloppy bookkeeping. It was a deliberate scheme to sustain. A supermarket can be 20,000 to 60,000 square feet in size. This is not right. Their storefronts were not even large enough.
What did she just say? Did she whisper, "This is not right"? Did she mean what she's saying wasn't right, or what's going on isn't right?
It was a deliberate.
Listen, she whispers real low, "This is not right."
Scheme to sustain. A supermarket can be 20,000 to 60,000 square feet in size. This is not right.
Here? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Did you hear that? She's
clear as day.
This is not right.
Their storefronts were not even large enough to support a legitimate food pantry. When someone turns the equivalent of that poorly stocked inventory into a cash exchange turnstile for federal benefits, they are stealing from every taxpayer and from every family that legitimately relies on this program. Claims that existing systems are sufficient to catch SNAP fraud are simply not borne out by the evidence collected in this single investigation. On December 15th, the AP ran a story titled, "Trump Administration Focuses on SNAP Fraud," and detailing that the administration is claiming that the government's biggest food aid program is riddled with fraud. The article stated that there was, quote, "little publicly available data," unquote, showing the extent of the alleged SNAP fraud, and that others who, quote, "study the program" were skeptical about the scale of the fraud. I would like to direct those experts to the evidence documented in today's criminal complaint. Almost $7 million in fraud allegedly committed by 2 individuals. This was not a sophisticated fraud scheme, and it didn't have to be because the lack of oversight was all that was needed to allow it to happen. This alleged fraud happened here in Massachusetts under the current system. It only involved 2 individuals, and it resulted in millions of dollars in losses. This investigation is just the start. This office will continue to work with federal partners to identify, investigate, and prosecute SNAP trafficking, no matter how long it's been going on or how much money is involved. The Trump administration has
No, free food wasn't good enough. Of course not.
made it clear that it will not tolerate SNAP benefit fraud, and it will criminally prosecute those who are engaging in the alleged fraud that was exposed in today's criminal complaint. The administration has requested assistance from all states, including the Commonwealth, that receive federal SNAP funding to provide data on SNAP recipients to identify fraud. Some states have complied with that request, others have not. Monday's AP article mentioned that Democratic-led states, including Massachusetts, refused to turn over to the USDA data on its SNAP recipients, arguing that doing so would, violate recipients' privacy, and claiming that the states already have systems in place for wrongdoing. Really? There is no privacy right that protects your fraudulent criminal behavior. Public assistance programs are a lifeline. We will not allow them to be treated as a criminal revenue stream. I urge all states to join in the fight to make sure these programs are protected and that the criminals who steal from them are prosecuted. Thank you, and I will now turn it over to Assistant Special Agent in Charge, James Crowley with the FBI.
All right, look, I don't know who needs to hear this, but my man just tried that new 100 milligram generic Viagra for
Getting booked down tonight.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, James Crowley with the FBI Boston office. Earlier today, FBI Boston assisted our partners at the USDA, Office of Inspector General, and the Boston Police in arresting 2 convenience store owners in Mattapan, which is in Boston, who are accused of using the stores as a front for a massive food fraud scam. These 2 men came into our country and allegedly defrauded a vital federal assistance program that millions of Americans rely on to feed their families out of millions of dollars. The photos located in today's complaint reveal that their businesses have very little inventory. In fact, they did not have sufficient inventory to support the number and value of the transactions that they were logging each day. In addition, the owner of Jazula Variety Store also fraudulently applied for SNAP benefits for himself back in 2022 and has been collecting these benefits ever since. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program exists to help families put food on the table, not to line the pockets of criminals. When fraud on this scale occurs, it drains limited resources, undermines public confidence in a program that millions rely on every day, and it makes it harder for honest families and small business owners to get the help they need. Every dollar stolen, taken away from a child, a senior, a working family who is struggling to make ends meet. It is also an affront to the legitimate business owners who play by the rules and serve the communities with integrity. Today's arrest should send a clear message: abusing public assistance programs for personal gain will not be tolerated. Protecting taxpayer dollars, safeguarding vital assistance programs is essential. I also want to thank the U.S. Attorney Leah Foley for her team in this case, as well as our partners with the USDA, Office of Inspector General, and the Boston Police, and also the FBI agents, analysts, and forensic accountants who all worked this investigation. As a result of their hard work, this alleged criminal operation was dismantled, its proceeds seized, and those responsible were brought to justice. Thank you.
I just wonder if you can speak to the challenges of actually understanding the scope of any fraud that might be occurring within the staff benefit program.
So based on the preliminary data that we have collected, we believe that the fraud is widespread. This was a very targeted investigation, and it is just getting started. We are planning to continue to investigate other stores and businesses where the anomalous volumes of EBT transactions that are happening on a daily and monthly basis is completely untethered from the realities of what those stores legitimately could ever possibly redeem in a month. But without the state's cooperation across the country, it is very difficult to present to you the data that shows fraudulent schemes like this.
To what extent is the state of Massachusetts cooperated with this investigation, and how much fraud you estimate is actually happening right now in the state alone?
This investigation was solely run by the federal, by the FBI, by the USDA, and there was assistance from the Boston Police Department.
I can't, Keeks.
All right. Well, that's crazy, man. That's a lot of money. But that's what's going on here, and that's what's going on here in Columbus too with the Somalians. So like, I tried to talk about it like a while back, and it's not like that conversation.
And what I'm about to describe to you is even 10 times that worse. And it started last night in Highland City. Jason Kinney, who's 47, is drinking during the
Easiest
evening.
headline ever.
And he's watching his football team, the 49ers, play football. Well, they're having a good night. They're winning. In fact, they won big.
Happened.
Sometime toward the end of the game at around 11 o'clock, an argument began when Crystal suggested they watch something else on television. And the argument got really heated. Crystal told her 12-year-old son to go to call 911. So the 12-year-old flees to the neighbor's house in order to dial 911. And as he's leaving the house, he hears a gunshot. Deputies arrive in less than 5 minutes of the call for service. And when we enter the house, we see that Crystal Kinney, the wife of Jason, is shot in the head and dead.
And they're fucking with it.
But it gets worse. We go into the bedroom and we see a 13-year-old child, a little girl.
What?
She shot twice. She shot in the shoulder and she shot in the face. We later learned the bullet in the face hit her on the bridge of the nose, went straight up and out the top of her head. She is alive in critical condition, but stable at Lakeland Regional Health and is alert and talking. That's a Christmas miracle. Jason shot her twice and intended to kill her. He didn't, however, shoot his biological child, thank God, who was 1 year old and in a crib. He shot his stepdaughter. He didn't get a chance to shoot his stepson who had run to dial 911. Jason gets into his vehicle and flees the scene just prior to deputies arriving. He is going toward Lake Wells. He calls his sister in upstate New York and he says, I've done something very, very bad. Very bad. I did something terrible. And this is the last time you'll ever talk to me. You'll see me on the news. But I am not going to jail. I'm not going to jail for the rest of my life. So he goes to his father's house, which apparently is east, and there's a friend staying there. When he gets to the house, he immediately goes into a shed. Deputies now are tracking Jason. We set up a perimeter and start yelling for Jason to come out of the shed, which is adjacent to the home. And the deputies hear a single gunshot. When we make entrance into the shed, we find that Jason has shot himself in the forehead, and he too is deceased.
Like a nice guy.
I want you to think about this a minute. As the investigations
What do you want me to stop?
unfolded during the night, and we're still in the preliminary stages, and as I always say when we talk soon, whatever we give you today is subject to modification.
I feel you.
We found a note that at some time in the past Crystal wrote, and it was open, where she told Jason, you know, you're drinking, you're using cocaine.
You read the description. It says tough topics that we could somehow make a laugh out of it. You know what I'm saying? Look at the smile on that guy's face.
Again, this is not the way the family should be. You need God. Crystal, by the way, goes to church every Sunday. We don't know when she wrote the note. It's not dated. There's no time. There's no indication, but it was open. So did she write it? As they argued earlier in the evening, or had it been some period of time? We also were able to talk to the 12-year-old, our Christmas miracle. She said, I begged him, don't shoot me, don't shoot me, don't shoot me, and he shot me anyway.
Stop it up, stop it up.
This is things that are never supposed to happen. And certainly we are all very, very happy that our little 13-year-old girl is, from every indication, going to survive and thrive. But the investigation's still underway. But this is a family disturbance that apparently had gone on for some time. We talked to another family member, and that family member said, oh, he's been beating on her for a while. So we've checked our records to see if we received any calls at the residence, and we have not. He has never been arrested for domestic violence. But bottom line is, 3 days before Christmas, he shot and killed his wife. He shot his 13-year-old stepdaughter twice and intended to kill her. Called his sister and confessed that he did something terrible. And then rather than be arrested, shot and killed himself. Quite frankly, I don't want to sound sinister, but the only thing he did that night was shoot himself.
Fuck boy.
After those horrible deeds. If he felt that way, he could have taken himself out and not hurt.
At least he did that much.
So it's sad anytime. It's horrific anytime. He had a chance. He could have gotten mental health help.
He figured that part out.
We'd have done anything we could for him and the family in advance. But he just absolutely destroyed a family, literally, and the mental health of 2 children without their mama and an infant that will grow up without a mother and a father. 3 days before Christmas. Any questions?
Exactly, Damon.
You said the 12-year-old that's asked not to be shot at. Did you mean the 13-year-old?
I meant the 13-year-old. 12-year-old was the boy. The 13-year-old was the girl. The 13-year-old girl begged not to be shot. Please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me. And he shot her twice anyway. The 12-year-old had fled out of the house, and the 12-year-old, heard the first gunshot as he was leaving.
Was it that neighbor that ended up being able to call 911?
He went to a neighbor's house, and 911 was dialed from the neighbor's house.
Is the gun registered to him?
We don't know who the gun's registered to, and you don't have to register guns in Florida. So that we will do a background on the gun, but it's too early to determine ownership. But the reality is, in Florida, we don't register guns. So.
And I know you said he didn't have there hadn't been prior domestic violence related calls. Did he have any other, history of any sort of violence?
No criminal history.
What happens to these children now?
Well, right now they're with the grandparents. DCF's call. DCF will take custody of them. They are placed right now with grandparents. And long term, the DCF and the grandparents will have to work that out because, I understand that the 12-year-old boy,
that's what it's
13-year-old girl who was shot.
Look, when I read the headline, that's what it made it sound like. But all she wanted to do was turn off the game. And what if she would have said, your 49ers suck, this game's over, let's fucking turn off the game, and he just lost it.
Their father is in California someplace.
I mean, she should know
with the children.
I believe
That's
it.
the early information. And of course, the infant's mom.
I dare a bitch to turn off the Buckeyes game while it's still going on. Oh,
dude!
Oh my God, bro!
That are deceased. So the entire family was destroyed.
You might be doing me a favor turning off the Browns game, but touch that Buckeyes game, woman. You'd be making me a sandwich for a week.
Great. And I must tell you, our homicide detectives are distraught. When they go in there, there's a beautiful Christmas tree with lots of Christmas presents under the tree, just like the nuclear family should be. And so they said, we see this big, beautiful Christmas tree.
DCF had to take them until the grandparents could actually get there. I'm sure they weren't on the scene. And they took the parents. Well, the mom was unalived and the dad was arrested. There was nobody to take the kids, Keeks.
We see the presents wrapped underneath the tree. We see the
That's
evidence
what happens.
of.
Oh, what did I just do? That's what happens when you commit a crime and both parents are taken away, or you're a single parent, you commit a crime.
A wonderful Christmas about to occur in this house. She goes to church. She tells him, you need God. You're slipping into abuse of drugs and alcohol. And it ends up this way. And quite frankly, it's not surprising some women protect.
I thought he said DCF was taking them until the grandparents could come sort it out.
Protect their husbands. And she never called on him. But apparently, he's been known for injuring her in the past.
What's your message, just especially since it's Christmas time, to other families? I mean, I know this is probably the worst possible.
Sure. My message to everyone is there's always help, free help. Dial 911 and say, I need help. Call any human services. We'll all provide help. None of this had to occur. There's no reason for this to occur. How does an argument over a television program end up with a murder, an attempted murder, and a suicide? That should never happen. So call for help. We have all kinds of services. We will come to you. We do house calls.
Thanks, Reed.
We'll come to you and help you. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt a loved one.
You think the letter could have been what started this argument?
Have no idea. Have no idea about the. We have no idea that whether or not she wrote the letter last night, or this has been built up over time. That will be part of the investigation into the future. But it was.
It have to be, Damon.
It was open for the detectives to see. It's not like we had to search it up in the house.
You said it was found on him.
No, it was found in the house.
You said that this was in Highland City. Where specifically?
Yeah, we normally don't give the address of victims, and certainly we have victims that are still alive that potentially may live there. So, okay. Now that that's over, you all have a Merry Christmas, okay? But tell everybody there's help. So depression, we see depression go up. We see suicides go up. And all of this didn't have to happen. Okay? God bless y'all all. Bye-bye.
We are blessed to get two, yes, that's right, two press conferences over the holidays by Sheriff Grady himself. We are blessed, so let's watch the other one. I had to get it off of two different sites because they weren't together. Yeah, right there.
And Osceola. It is a retirement community. It's Polo Park West. It's right up at 27 and 192 where all of the counties intersect. It is a remarkable retirement community where people not only retire in their golden years, but they look out for each other. It's a fun community. It's a fun place to live. So let me take you to Sunday afternoon about 1 or 1:30. A neighbor called the sheriff's office and said, you know, I'm real concerned about my friend, John Torneo,
Did you just see that,
who's 67. We're pretty close, and I haven't seen or heard from him in a couple of days.
Did you just see that, bro?
Around September, he had a 19-year-old kid move in with him.
What the
John's a
fuck?
retired nurse, 30 years in Connecticut, just a superhuman being and always wants to
It
help
went
people.
down to 57.
Well, last Wednesday, he made this 19-year-old leave because he wasn't help paying the rent. He wasn't help keeping up the house, so they put him out.
For a second, it keeps bouncing
And now I
all the
haven't
way
seen John
down
in a
and then
couple
like
of days.
back up. Like,
So our deputy arrives at the scene.
not letting me get past 200.
And the neighbor has a key to the house. So while the neighbor goes in to look in the house, our deputy stays outside and is doing some work on the computer.
Hi,
And is
Candy.
working with a real-time crime center.
Hey,
The deputy
Candy.
discovers that the victim's vehicle is traveling south on Highway 27, and the deputy thinks, well, he's just not home. The neighbor comes back out of the house and says,
stop.
No, he's not in there. So the deputy thinks, well, he's not. Vehicle's moving south on 27, and in 12 minutes clears the call. The neighbor goes home, watching football games and texting and trying to call his friend John, and there's no answer. And it's eating at the neighbor, and he says, something's just wrong about this. This is not my friend John Tornado that I know. So the neighbor gets with a couple of other neighbors. They go back to the house by themselves, unlock the house, and go in. Now there's one bedroom that's locked. So they take a screwdriver and they take the lock off of the door and go in, and there's John, dead, disemboweled, eviscerated on the floor. So obviously they call the sheriff's office and we respond to the event. Let me pause there to say that the deputy, in our estimation, who has been with us about a year, is a really fine young deputy, but obviously needs more training. So we have taken her out of patrol. She can no longer work by herself until she goes back through our third phase of training again. She, in our estimation, in my estimation, did just enough.
Now
she
what?
didn't go above and beyond. Had she gone above and beyond, had she walked around the perimeter of the house, she would have seen a screen off of the bathroom door, or excuse me, the bathroom window. So at the end of the day, it didn't make any difference. Our victim, John, had been deceased for hours and hours.
There it is.
So
hit the like, subscribe. Hit the like, share, subscribe. Perfect timing.
So the investigation's on. Our detectives, which are the very best, who have this team only has like 2 unsolved homicides in 18 or 19 years, is on this case. We start the investigation, and what we find out is, as I reported to you, our victim had been severely cut in the stomach. And as we learned at autopsy, had also been hit in the head. We discovered our 19-year-old as Julian Trevino, and he, in fact, had been put out of the house on Wednesday. We searched and found our victim's car. During the search before we found Julian Trevino, we found that he had used the victim's credit card at a Circle K in the area, and he had used the victim's credit card at the pizza restaurant that he worked as a dishwasher. I mean, I got to tell you, Helen Keller could have followed the leads that this guy left. This is what we call a slow pitch criminal investigation. So we, through investigative means and working with our colleagues, found the victim's vehicle. And our detectives set up on the vehicle. Now, we had our suspect identified very quickly. We'd gathered evidence very quickly, and we're watching the vehicle. Now it's about 4 o'clock on Monday morning. We see our suspect come out and get into the victim's vehicle. Our detectives immediately try to take our suspect, Julian Trevino, into custody. He didn't want to be arrested, so he fled from us. We attempted to pit the vehicle a couple of times unsuccessfully. And finally, in his urge to get away from us, he ran into a ditch and crashed the car, jumped out, and ran on foot. Our homicide detectives, which are known as being meticulous kind of guys, ran him down. So they not only got to do follow-up, they got to be involved in a pursuit and catch the bad guy. I was proud of them. Quite frankly, I'd like to see him running. So when we arrested him, then he confessed. And this is what he told us. I was really angry when he put me out of the house. And now I'm having to live in a shed by a friend's house. I didn't want to go away from my girlfriend. He never left the vicinity from where he committed it. So about 3 to 4 o'clock on Sunday morning, he goes back to John's house and he breaks in. He breaks into the bathroom window and hides in a closet. When he hears our victim, John, settle in for the night, then he goes to stealing cash, credit cards. And what happens then? Our victim wakes up. He sees Julian. He understands who he is because he's lived with him since about September. And our victim confronts Julian and says, "You're not supposed to be here." At that point in time, our suspect told us, "I shoved John down on the bed and ran to the kitchen and retrieved a knife, a butcher knife. I ran back to the bedroom and I stabbed him and I cut him." He eviscerated him. And then he took a wine bottle. John keeps a wine cooler in his bedroom. Menage a Trois was the wine. You can buy it for $7.49. And beat him in the head with it to make sure he was dead.
Dang.
Then
Somebody
he took
was
the wine
bad.
bottle and the knife, left the neighborhood. He had to walk across the street between some mobile homes. It's still dark in the 4 o'clock Sunday morning era, and threw the knife and the wine bottle into the creek. He told us he did that, and we were able to go back and recover both of them. Then he left in the victim's vehicle and was driving around using his credit cards, spending his cash when we arrested him. So in about 12 hours, 11 hours from the time our homicide team arrived, we had our suspect in custody. But it's important to understand that sometimes when you're nice to evil people, they kill you. Here's what's difficult about this to understand. John thought he was a kid needing a home, that he was homeless. Julian Trevino did not have a criminal record. John, who was a retired nurse and had helped so many people along life's way and was a great neighbor, did not have a criminal record. And this all started because another neighbor was going to John's house to provide holiday goodies and help celebrate the Christmas season. It's sad. It's real sad. But we have him in custody. We have evidence, mountains of evidence. And now we are wrapping up the investigation, whereupon we will make sure that Julian, at a minimum, spends the rest of his life in prison. I could argue with the heinousness and the violence and the fact that he broke in, it was a home invasion, burglary, robbery, that he shoved him down, ran to the kitchen and ran back and stabbed him, eviscerated him, disemboweled him, beat him in the head with a cheap wine bottle. That maybe the state attorney will decide that this should be a capital murder, but that's the state attorney's decision, and we'll fully support that. Our state attorney's office, Brian Haas and his team, are simply the very best. Are there any questions about this event?
Sheriff, first of all, what was the original reason that, first of all, how these two met? And second of all, is just given he's a nurse, did he just feel sorry for this kid and say, hey, come with me?
John had a history of helping those less fortunate. John had a history of wanting to provide and make a positive difference. I think it's from his experience of 30 years as a nurse helping people. Now, how he met our suspect specifically, that's still under investigation.
Nice.
Obviously, our victim, John, can't talk to us. And we will tie those loose ends up. But our homicide team had him in custody, my goodness, in
Thank you.
11,
Don.
12 hours after
Thanks,
they got
Don.
involved in the investigation. And look, this is what we call, as I said before, I mean, it's, you know, it's a T-ball homicide. It's set up, you knock it over.
Smoking RS-11, Candy.
You know, there's all the evidence, there's the confession, you know.
Salad mix.
And you ask the suspect, I mean, he didn't leave the area. So they asked him, you stayed right here in the guy's car that you murdered. He said, well, I didn't want to get far away from my girlfriend. Well, he's far away from her now. She lives up in the northeast part of the county, and he's an hour away at the South County Jail, and he's going to get further away upon his conviction. He's going to the other end of the state for at least the rest of his life at best. There's no reason for it. It's just vicious and violent and should have never occurred. And it happened to a man who tried to help him, and he wouldn't help himself. So finally, John put him out of the house.
I understand he doesn't have any significant criminal history, maybe any criminal history. Have you been able to find anything in his background that suggests this type of outburst or behavioral issues at school, what happened?
Right. That will be the follow-up investigation, as you well understand. We just found the knife this morning. We've actually found the wine bottle, and we found the suspect's shoes. So we asked the suspect, why did you throw your shoes into the creek along with the wine bottle and the knife? He said, well, that's the only blood I got on me that I could tell was my shoes. So I threw them away too. And this was in the dark of night. And then he was out of the community. But I applaud the neighbor who said, look, I'm friends with John. He's a super nice guy. This is way out of the normal zone. And he kept digging in until we got to where we needed to be with this investigation.
You see what keeps happening?
We're working on that now. He's from Connecticut. That's where he spent 30 years. And I think my folks are working on some next of kin now. All right. Then this next one I want to talk to you about. This is Stephen John Phillips. He's 64 from Mulberry. He has no criminal history. None. Zero. He's an optician for the Lakeland Eye Clinic on South Florida Avenue. Now, for those of you that use the Lakeland Eye Clinic on South Florida Avenue, they're very professional and do a really good job. However, Stephen John Phillips, you know, when he's not busy helping people see better, you know, he's not seeing too clearly himself. So this is Sunday morning about 10:55. Obviously, he needed to be in church instead of engaged in a road rage incident. But he was engaged in a road rage incident on Hardin Boulevard that went into Old Highway 37, which is in the southwest area of incorporated and unincorporated Polk County. Well, he was brake checking the victim, and they pulled up next to each other at a red light. And guess what? He pointed a gun at the victims, and there was a child in the victim's car. The victims went home. They had a photograph of his tag, had a photograph of him holding a gun and pointing it at them.
Smart.
Now you can see this clearly with or without glasses.
Dumbass.
This optician should have known that this was going to be crystal clear to us. And I imagine some of my detectives or deputies, you know, they get their glasses at the Lakeland Eye Clinic. So we go see Stephen John Phillips at his house. And when we arrive, he admits, yeah, I was involved in a little road rage incident. We said, well, what about when you committed an aggravated assault by pointing the gun? He said, I didn't point a gun at anyone. And we said, does this look familiar? Can you tell who this is with or without glasses? And he looked at it and he said, I believe that's me, and that's my gun. He said, I didn't know I pointed it high enough that they could see it. I was just protecting myself because I thought the victims pointed something at me. So Stephen John Phillips did the right thing, and he gave us his gun, and then we took him to jail. And it's Merry Christmas to you, John. You're arrested, and we provided to you for Christmas, for the first time in your life, felony criminal charges. No criminal history. You know, I try to educate people. I try to coach people. I beg people, don't get involved in road rage. Just back off and leave the people alone, because it does not turn out well. So now we've got a professional man here, well deserving.
How you doing, Bob boy?
These felony charges when he pointed a gun at a child in the car as well as the other two victims. The Christmas season is just beginning. It should be a time of joy and peace and happiness for your family and your fellow men and women. So keep this in mind. You can either behave or you can spend Christmas with me at the county jail, because we're going to make sure that our 53-year crime rate low continues. Don't fight with people. Don't point guns at people, or you go to jail. You see what I mean?
What up, Bob boy?
Sheriff, I assume that the optical is either not operational or operating on very different sort of circumstances right now. What are your thoughts for the other employees there who depend on him to keep this place going?
Well, he's an optician in a very large clinic, and I can tell you,
So
it's a big clinic, and Lakeland Eye Clinic is very professional and wonderful people. You know, I'm disappointed in him, to say the least, but he's got problems.
Yes, sir,
He's got
Bob
real
boy.
problems, and people don't understand that. In a moment of anger and rage, they can change their life forever by doing something stupid. This is what we call stupid. Stupid with a capital S. Stupid at Christmas time. You know, even the Grinch says, come on, man, what are you doing?
Isn't that Joe Biden?
Are you out of your mind?
Come on, man.
His family, they have 3-year-old saying that he might have been about to shoot at
Well-
them or the child.
Well, I'm blessed. We're blessed. They're blessed. We're all fortunate that he didn't shoot, that no one shot. I mean, I've seen incidents where somebody points a gun like this and he didn't pull the trigger. So maybe he had absolutely no intentions of pulling the trigger. So what happened if the other people had raised their gun up and killed him? How would that have worked for his family on Christmas? I can assure you of one thing. He knew better. And he shouldn't have pointed this gun. And the baby Jesus ain't happy. Okay, anything else? God bless y'all. If I don't see you before, have a very Merry Christmas. Take care. Sure. Come on out here when you finish. See y'all.
I needed that. I had to piss like a mud.
What's up, Evan?
He wants to do it over there.
Yeah.
Okay. You bring his mic. Can you do the podium or do you want to?
Is it over?
We just need a Lloyd Sowers. Okay. Retirement thing.
Is it over?
I don't get to see him personally anymore.
It has been a while. Why aren't you coming over here more often?
There's still 5 minutes left in it.
Lloyd Sowers is retiring.
Lloyd Sowers is retiring. 2 years, January is his last day.
Wow.
40 years.
Florida. I don't understand how we went from almost 300 to 63 on the same. Like, really, bro?
I'm watching it.
This is insane. This is fucking stupid.
Everybody hit the like.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Thompson. I'm the first assistant United States attorney here for the District of Minnesota. I'm standing in for our U.S. attorney, Dan Rosen, who is out of the country getting married. Congrats to Danny and Atara. I hope you're watching. My condolences for all of you who will be stuck with me today. I'm here today with representatives from my office, as well as from the FBI, the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Inspector General, the IRS Criminal Investigations, and the Department of Homeland Security Investigations. We are here to announce new charges in the ongoing investigations into fraud in state government programs, including the Housing Stabilization Services Medicaid program and the EIDBI Autism Medicaid program. I also want to give an update as to the status of our investigations, which have become a matter of significant public concern, both here and around the country. First, we're announcing charges against 5 new defendants in the investigation of fraud in the Housing Stabilization Services Medicaid program here in Minnesota. The first, United States versus Hassan Ahmed Hussein and Ahmed Abdi Rashim Mohammed, involves the owners of Christine Health LLC, a housing stabilization services company here in Minnesota. These 2 defendants enrolled in the Housing Stabilization Services program, purportedly to provide services helping people who were facing housing instability, find and maintain stable housing. They did no such thing. Instead, they submitted fraudulent claims to Medicaid for services that they did not actually provide to those individual clients. In all, they obtained more than $750,000 in Medicaid payments through their fraud scheme, much of which they used for pretty extensive international travel, including to London, Sydney, Australia, Istanbul, Turkey, Dubai, and several locations in Saudi Arabia. The second case being announced today is United States versus Kamil Omar Salah, the owner of Safe Lodgings, Inc., another housing stabilization services company. As with the other defendants, Mr. Salah enrolled in the housing stabilization program and began claiming to be providing housing stabilization services to people that were leaving drug and alcohol rehabilitation facilities.
All right, what I'm gonna do?
Instead, he just submitted fraudulent claims for services that he never.
Do I keep showing this, or do I go to the other stuff and we'll show this another time? It's up to y'all.
He submitted more than $1.4 million in fraudulent Medicaid claims, which he used to purchase more than $150,000 in cryptocurrency to fund his lifestyle. We learned recently that Mr. Salah actually fled the United States after his company received a grand jury subpoena for records related to its participation in the Housing Stabilization Services program.
What if you find yourself one day left out of a loved one's will? Or maybe you need help setting up or managing a will?
The fourth and fifth defendants are charged in United States versus Anthony Waddell Jefferson and Lester Brown. And this case is slightly different. This is an instance of what's essentially fraud tourism. Mr. Jefferson and Brown were residents of Philadelphia who had no connection to Minnesota, except for they heard that Minnesota and its Housing Stabilization Services program was easy money. And so they traveled to Minnesota, enrolled their companies, Chosen Runner LLC.
It sure does, Bob Boy.
In the Housing Stabilization Services Medicaid program here in Minnesota. They then returned to Philadelphia and began submitting fraudulent claims to Minnesota Medicaid here, through which they obtained more than $3.5 million in fraudulent Medicaid payments. This fraud tourism is new, although we've heard of it as investigators here. I mean, these defendants came here not to enjoy our lakes, our beautiful summers, our warm people. They came here because they knew and understood that Minnesota was a place where taxpayer money could be taken with little risk and few consequences. Fortunately, through the hard work of the agents, that we have been able to charge them for their role here. Now, to date, we have charged 13 people for their role in the scheme to defraud the Housing Stabilization Services program, and that investigation remains very much ongoing. We expect additional charges in the coming weeks and months. I also want to announce some updates in the fraud scheme, or the scheme to defraud the Early Intensive Development and Behavior Intervention for Autism program, another Medicaid program here in the state of Minnesota. Today, we unsealed charges against the second defendant charged in the case, Abdi Najib Hassan Youssef, who owns Star Autism Center in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Mr. Youssef, like others involved in the autism scheme, paid kickbacks to parents that had their children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and enrolled to receive EIDBI services at his autism center.
You live there, bro? That's crazy.
For services that were not provided, and in many cases were not needed, he received more than $6 million in Medicaid funds. He used some of those proceeds to purchase a semi-truck for $100,000, and he also sent more than $200,000 to Kenya. Earlier this morning at 10:30, the first defendant charged in the autism fraud scheme, Asha Farah Hassan, pled guilty. As you may recall, Ms. Farah was the owner of Smart Therapy LLC, a Minneapolis-based autism clinic. Through her clinic, she participated in both a scheme to defraud the EIDBI program as well as a scheme to fraudulently obtain federal child nutrition program funds
Come
for
on,
sponsorship of Feeding Our
bro.
Future. Through these fraud schemes, Ms. Hassan received more than $14 million in Medicaid payments and more than $450,000 in federal child nutrition program funds, of which she sent at least hundreds of thousands of dollars to Kenya, which were used to purchase real estate. Now this morning, that's the EIDBI program. This morning, we also executed a search warrant related to investigation into another Medicaid program here in Minnesota, a state Medicaid program called Integrated Community Supports, or ICS. ICS was a program that started in 2021 here in the state of Minnesota. It was designed to help people with disabilities live more independently in the community with assistance, with one-on-one help with health issues, safety, and other household tasks to allow them to live in the community as opposed to in an institution. Through this program, providers obtain apartments in which their ICS clients can live. In theory, the providers are supposedly giving daily assistance to those clients to help them live independently in the community. That assistance can include community participation, helping them get out and about in the community, helping them with household management, setting up medical appointments, and issues with household safety and day-to-day safety. In reality, what the investigation has shown is that many ICS providers did no such thing. Instead, they simply obtained apartments or condos, which they rented to people who they got qualified to receive ICS services, people with disabilities that would qualify them to receive ICS services, and then just put them in there and started billing. The ICS program would allow providers to bill hundreds of dollars a day for each client that they had, often more than $100,000 or even $200,000 a year for each ICS client. But in reality, that's not what was happening. Now, this program, like the others, this ICS program saw a similar pattern of explosive growth in recent years. Since beginning in 2021, the first year that Minnesota offered Medicaid coverage for integrated community supports, it has grown from $4.6 million in 2021 to more than $170 million in 2024. And as you can see, the 2025 numbers were through September 30th, but they're on pace for nearly $180 million, despite the efforts to get a handle on the fraud in recent months here in Minnesota. In all, since 2021, Medicaid has paid out more than $400 million to Minnesota providers of ICS support services. Now, this pattern you see on the board is very similar to these other investigations.
Doing that, Bob, boy.
Explosive exponential growth. Housing Stabilization Services, which also started in 2021, has a similar pattern of growth. Just kept growing and growing and growing each year. And again, this program was estimated to cost $2.5 million a year. But the data from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services show that it costs significantly more than that. And in fact, housing stabilization has cost more than $300 million since 2021. The EIDBI autism program has a similar pattern. It's cost the state more than $1 billion since starting in 2018, or it's cost Medicaid more than $1 billion, and has grown, as you can see, every year significantly larger. And of course, the original scheme that started all this was Feeding Our Future.
I mean, I'm thinking about it, Candy, but
pattern of explosive
I
growth.
might end the stream.
I want to talk a little generally about the investigation and the scope. I know there's been a lot of questions recently about the scope of the fraud and the amount
Too
of
much games
the
being
state
played.
in recent months has flagged 14 Medicaid programs
Can redo it.
as having significant fraud problems.
No.
For those 14 programs, which include the Housing Stabilization Services Program and the EIDBI Autism Program, the states issued a payment suspension for 90 days.
I mean, I guess.
Ordered a third-party audit of all providers in those programs, and they've even canceled the Housing Stabilization Services Program altogether. Now, these services,
I took both college admission tests, and the SAT scoring
I
felt
love
tricky,
Candy,
but the
dude.
ACT scoring
Candy's the
felt more
best.
transparent. The ACT is simple. They
One day we're gonna have to meet Candy. Candy is the best.
PCA services, adult day services.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
non-emergency medical transportation. No,
And Reed.
We've been talking for some months about the fraud problem in Minnesota. And
I wish there was a way to get everybody, Bot Boy too, get us all together.
Yeah, Bob Boy too.
Minnesotans and taxpayers deserve to know the truth of the fraud. The fraud is not
All
small.
right, this is what I'm gonna do,
It's
you
isolated.
guys.
The magnitude cannot.
Because this algorithm's just fucking bouncing around like a fucking, like an
We can do the same thing we did yesterday.
like an asshole. I'm gonna go ahead and bullshit for a minute. And let's see. Maybe I'll just restart it or say fuck it. I don't know. What do I do, you guys?
We're at 6-8 now. It's when we restarted it yesterday.
What we see in Minnesota is not a handful of bad actors.
I'm just sitting here going.
It's a staggering.
We were at like 300 people and it just stopped. Nah, bro. We were at like
Minnesota and calling into question.
It just like went down to 100 like out of nowhere.
I spoke in the fall about the iceberg I saw ahead. Something's fraud that's much larger than what's been visible to the public. When I said that, it wasn't hyperbole or rhetoric, it was a warning. And today I want to talk and I want to show here a sense of what that iceberg looks like, because I think people deserve to know what that is and how big this problem is, because we can't solve the problem until we grapple with the size of it. So the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services pulled the claims data for these 14 programs dating back to 2018. And those 14 programs in Minnesota have cost $18 billion since 2018 and more than $3.5 billion in 2024 alone.
Yeah, it is, Bob Boy.
So that's a sense of the magnitude of the problem. These are the 14 Medicaid programs, which is just a part of Medicaid, these waivered services.
By the way,
that have been flagged.
Marley's been really, really sick. Everybody say a prayer for him.
Having issues with program integrity and fraud. Now, I'm sure everyone is wondering how much of this $18 billion was fraud. That's it's not the $1 million question. That's the $18 billion question.
Right.
The answer is far too much. And the task ahead of all of us is not only figuring out how much of that money was fraud, because we know a significant amount was, but figuring out how to put an end to the fraud in our state and get control of it. So let me end with this before I take questions. The magnitude of the fraud in Minnesota cannot be overstated.
He's not eating, my brother.
Amounts of money that have been lost.
He wants food, but
it's
he's not eating.
Just about the money that's been stolen and wasted.
It's the same thing that keeps happening with him. He wants food, but he's not eating. He's like right now he's sitting in the kitchen like bitching at me, and then if I bring him some food, he's not going to eat it.
This is a problem that's caused all of us to question what kind of state we live in. I think it's eroded our sense of collective statewide self-esteem and confidence.
Thanks, Candy. I was so wore out.
Beautiful lakes.
I'm not kidding. I was so wore out from taking care of them, and then the holidays that I literally like fell asleep. I don't even remember. Like I just fell asleep in my chair. Like, cause soon as he like ate a little bit of broth, like he passed out, and like like he just has not been letting me really sleep.
And a sense of community spirit and civic mindedness. This fraud really calls into question all of that. And I know that it's gone on, it's been allowed to go on far too long. And we need to do whatever we can to stop it in its tracks.
What we do is we completely research the laws regarding labor.
Thank you.
Joel, can you give us a bare minimum of how much of that 18 million you suspect will turn out to be fraud?
Yeah.
A significant portion.
Joe, could you talk about how much you have charged if you're connected to fraud you've uncovered? What's the dollar amount of that?
Well, we prosecute people, not dollars. Feeding Our Future, Amy Bach, the head of Feeding Our Future, was convicted of carrying out a $240 to $250 million fraud scheme. Several other defendants that were charged in what we call collectively as the Feeding Our Future case were actually not under the sponsorship of Feeding Our Future. So the very first quote unquote Feeding Our Future trial was actually a group of individuals that owned Empire Cuisine and Market and other related companies. They carried out a $49 million fraud, almost all of which was under the sponsorship of another entity. Similarly, a case called United States versus Haji Salad, which charged 7 or 8 defendants with carrying out a $25 million fraud scheme under the sponsorship.
I'm blaming myself on this one because he had just gone through it around Thanksgiving. I got him back to perfect. Ryan will tell you he was struggling. And then I got him back to like perfect. And then I ran out of specific food. I gave him a little alternative so I could get to the store. And he got sick from that and really hasn't recovered. So, and then because I was gone for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I think that gave him anxiety. So it's like, I don't know if it's just anxiety or whatever it is. I don't know.
Partners in nutrition. So you do the math, $240, $250 million plus 50 million plus 25 million. That's well into the 300 million.
I mean, he's 96 in human years. He like depends on me. I'm his caretaker, you know?
Just in the federal child nutrition program fraud scheme. These other programs here, housing stabilization, autism now between 6 and 14, that's $20 million that's charged in the autism program so far. Housing stabilization, I haven't done the math, but it's well over 10 that's charged now. And obviously that's just this team's efforts. There's other prosecutions going on that have been flagged for many people. Evergreen Recovery is a case you may recall that I think was $30 million involving rehabilitation or drug and alcohol treatment. So it's a significant amount.
Joe, Asha Hassan, how many people like Asha Hassan fit into 2 buckets?
Well, Asha Hassan's the one that's been charged with and now convicted of both buckets, but many defendants in these cases were getting money from multiple government benefit programs, many Medicaid programs. This is how these investigations grew out of Feeding Our Future. I think roughly 24 or so Feeding Our Future defendants were getting money from autism clinics. That's when we got caught. That's how we learned about the autism fraud. And there's, if you look at the bank records, many of which were admitted into evidence at trial, you'll see many other healthcare companies from which charged defendants and convicted defendants were receiving funds.
And when we talk about the VANVE, I was in court for her sentencing or plea today, and the government talked about somewhere between, was on her shoulders, her smart therapy, restitution coming in at 15.9 million. These numbers are all over the place. Can you explain why?
Well, 9 to 25 is the sentencing guideline range. There's an enhancement based on the loss amount, and one of the sort of windows of loss amount is between 9 million and 25 million. So that's just a product of how the sentencing guidelines are. The 14 or whatever million she owes, that's a combination of the money she fraudulently received from the EIDBI program and the federal child nutrition program. Again, normally often media will ask about the loss amount or how much have you prosecuted. We prosecute people, not dollars. Our forensic accountants can answer some of this, but we're focused mostly on not only charging defendants. The reason we charge defendants is to stop them from committing fraud. So housing stabilization, maybe we've charged $10 or $15 million worth of fraud in terms of those individual defendants. But of course, the state shut down the program that was costing more than $100 million a year. So does the prosecutor get credit for that? That's for other people to decide.
So can you confirm the portion to get to where you are today? How long is it going to take to get to $1 billion or $2 billion? A year, 2 years, 5 years?
As long as it takes.
The 14 programs that have been designated as being at high risk, the federal law enforcement agencies are actively investigating, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, we're looking.
Thanks, Spot Boy. He is a gangster.
Any other examples where the cost of Medicaid-funded programs programs across the board?
I think we're an outlier in a bad way. Yes. Have I gone through every 50 state? No, but you don't see fraud on this scale in other states. And part of that is just we sit here as a team, and it's a relatively small team or a relatively small U.S. Attorney's Office, and every day we look under a rock and find a new $50 million fraud scheme. That shouldn't be the case in a state of our size. Certainly, other states have problem with frauds.
These people been having some frauds. What is it? Freudian slips like crazy.
What we aren't seeing here, traditional Medicare or Medicaid fraud is people overbilling, upcoding. Billing for a service with a relatively modest reimbursement. You claim to be providing a higher dollar value service, and you get more Medicaid payments or reimbursements that you should be entitled to. That's traditional. You maybe thing is unique to Minnesota is that's not what we're looking at. What we're seeing is programs that are just entirely fraudulent. These aren't companies that are providing some services but overbilling Medicare or Medicaid. These are companies that are providing essentially no services. They're essentially shell companies created to defraud the program, created to submit on a wholesale level fraudulent claims for services that aren't necessary and aren't provided. I think that's unique to Minnesota.
Which programs are the worst after you've looked at these? Which ones, which ones have the most fraud in it? Which are
Buddy, speaking of, he just jumped up on the table.
Essentially, it's hard to say. EIDBI is an incredibly lucrative program. Some of these other ones are quite large. I think the PCA program is over $1 billion or $1.5 billion a year. I think there's a significant amount of fraud in that program. Which is worse? I think that's a normative statement, a value statement that I'll leave to others. 2018. Yes.
You might want to reset this one.
Yes, there's a significant amount of money sent abroad, mostly to East Africa, much of it to Kenya and to Nairobi. That the money that we've traced, most of it has been used to purchase real estate in Nairobi, where there's a large.
I was going to it.
Yeah.
So that's we traced much of it. In fact, the first trial, United States versus Abdiaziz Farah, we had days.
I'm gonna reset it. I'll be back on.
10 or 12-story apartment building.
Yeah, I'll be good. I hope you guys enjoyed the first half. I'll try to get.
Correct. Well, there's no indication that
I gotta find something to start off
radically went to Somalia. Indirectly, some money.
God bless. Peace.
Which controls significant parts of Somalia and imposes a tax there. So